Infotec 2017. I'm Jim Collison. We're back for the last interview of the day. We've been doing interviews all day, and we appreciate those folks that came out a chance to do it. Here with Scott Osborne. No, Scott Armstrong. Yeah. Osborne sounds pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I'll switch it.
That sounds really cool. That sounds like that sounds. So Scott Armstrong is here. Scott has your session. What time was your session today?
It was this morning, 9:45.
Oh, how'd that go? How's the crowd at 9:45?
So far, everyone came to see me. Said great response. So I'm happy to hear because the crowd here is a bit more IT focused.
Yeah.
And yes, we do sell a software, but at the end of the day, our buyer is more on the business end.
Yeah.
So I think it was good because it gave an outlet different for many of the people that are in IT, but the business side of IT. So I got a lot of good feedback. That's positive.
Good. Well, that's always for us speaking, that's always the key. Let's back up a little bit. Well, that's what we think too, right? I was like, are they just saying that?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you do, your current company, those kinds of things.
So yeah, well, as you mentioned, I'm Scott Armstrong. I'm actually one of the owners, and I'm the managing partner for Interfacing Technologies Corporation. And Interfacing, our head office is out of Montreal, but we do have offices overseas as well. So we do have customers and clients and partners worldwide. Our software, our flagship software that we sell is our own IP, and it's focused on business process management. So the ability to document your processes, analyze your processes, standardize, really think of it as like the Google Drive for processes, one central repository that everyone worldwide can access the same standard, understand and compare the differences between the different regions, one plant to another plant, pretty much bring them all together in one single platform. But it's not just the process, it's everything around the process. So we tie in the KPIs, the risks, controls, business rules, policies, documents, roles and responsibilities. So for our technology, I think I try to step away from even the word BPM because it's really much more of a management solution because it includes a lot of the surrounding information beyond process.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned Montreal. Are you from Montreal then? Is that where you live?
Yeah, born and raised.
And so you made the trek out to Omaha just for the conference?
Yeah, it's not my first time though.
Yeah.
I came for the steaks.
That's good. It's good to come Omaha for the steaks. Apparently the conference is good enough business for you though to justify coming out here.
Well, we do have a local partner here in Omaha.
Okay.
So that could support deployments. And beyond that, we have customers that are in Omaha. Good. So we've been to the conference in the past. He said, come in, do a speaking opportunity. So we said, sure.
Awesome. No, we love Omaha. I've been here 20 some years now. And I think it's a great community. So welcome and welcome back.
Thank you.
Where do most business processes go wrong? So, you're in the process of making them go right for customers. When you see it on the front end, where are a lot of things going wrong? And how do people know they've got a problem?
Well, I would say the more historical way and approach to process management is exactly that, is they wait for something to go wrong. And then that triggers a project to analyze what are we doing today. And then that takes a whole lot of time to get to actually understand what is the actual problem to look at what you want to fix. So it's funny you touch on that. That's my whole approach of stop doing that. Stop waiting for a problem to start to trigger a project to actually even understand what you do. BPM is more around transparency and visibility of the ongoing to-date process as it is today, so that you can focus objectives on where you want to go tomorrow, and you're much more efficient and effective in that approach, whether it involves IT or not. And actually some of the customers in IT focus on that they say, we won't start a project unless you've revalidated your process to date. Because if you don't, it's like a blueprint.
Yeah.
Right? And it's one of the biggest challenges within IT to actually deploy systems, because they don't really understand what they're doing today, and they don't understand the requirements of the business, and they end up with poor deployments. And it's not the software's fault. I don't blame SAP. I don't blame SharePoint. It's understanding what's required and putting a good transition and training and change management program behind it, which I think a process management tool really is a great backbone for that.
So describe. So if I'm wanting to do something like this, so I'm assuming you guys come in first, measure a lot of those pieces, and then make some recommendations. Is that, and then what's that tool look like that you guys implement?
Well, my recommendation is always take a iterative approach. So another problem you could say of process isn't new. It's been around for so long. So I don't want to bore people with, oh, it's new and exciting. No, the difference is the approach that you take. So a lot of companies will think, oh, we need to map our processes. And they go out and think they need to map the entire company. Takes months. And then they never really get any real gains or benefits out of it. So then it becomes a shelf, gets shelved. It's somewhere, no one's using it. So the real approach that I recommend is taking an iterative approach and taking a snapshot of where you are today, what's the current maturity, not of the whole company, of the different processes within the company. They could have different maturity levels depending on which process you're looking at, and prioritizing, and then taking that one process from 0 to hero so that you get quick wins and you get buy-in from the end users. Because if you drag them along for months and there's no real value, people get bored, people get back to what they're used to doing, if you get what I'm trying to say. So
yeah. Can you give me just a quick example? Leave the names of the company out to protect the guilty, but sure. Can you give me an example of something you maybe seen recently where that worked in helping a client?
Yeah, absolutely. I see the largest success in a couple when the driver, how I look at it is when it's not a BPM program. You don't need a specific program for this. There are companies that do it, but then what ends up happening is sooner or later they do cutbacks and kill off that team. So use the people that you have that are already there. There's already people documenting in quality, in IT, in internal audit, business solutions. There's so many people. Bring them together. And some of our large success stories that we have recently are actually one is one of the largest regulatory firms worldwide who've documented and standardized all their standard operating procedures in every country across the globe using our technology. And they have operations in every country. I mean, North Korea, Iran, Iraq, since they regulate all the airlines worldwide. Another recent one was in the insurance arena, where it's not just from business improvement, but also the driver behind it is compliance. The new regulations from IMF and ISO 9000, the new 2015 version. You actually have to bring process and risk together, do risk assessment by process. It's something new challenge for people.
Yeah.
These types of things. So
yeah, we've been up against that too. We've been getting some of our data certified, some of our process certified, and that's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot to get all those things put together and in place and then documented. And then of course you got to enforce them.
Correct.
That's got to be the biggest challenge, right?
I would say two big challenges to overcome. One is, like you said, keeping things to date. I think that's where a lot of people have gotten tired of process because it's a lot of work and then it goes out of date. So the first thing, one of the tips I recommended this morning was put a system for automated reviews. So put a frequency on it. Now that you've assigned who's accountable for it, that this process has to be revalidated every 3 months or 6 months. Now the system automatically assigns a task to every accountable across the company. So it's giving them ownership. There's no longer someone with a whip like, is our process today to not... they restamp it constantly. That's one way to enforce that. It's no longer a should, it's a must, and someone's tracking that information. Right. The other is the enforcement side. So it's great documenting something, but if it's not actually implemented in the company, what's the benefit of it, right? If they're not utilizing it. I was just talking to someone about that right here, and he said, how do I get people even to use the documentation? Yeah. And then I said, put it where people work. And because I agree, if you put it in another application or on a shelf somewhere, they won't go. But put it directly in SharePoint or in the CRM. They're creating a new customer in the CRM. They click create new customer and it will pop up that specific process and procedure. They shouldn't have to search around everywhere to find it.
Yeah.
Put it at their fingertips.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll go back to the old fashion of let's go ask Bob. Right. If it takes longer than, honestly, 10 seconds to find, I'm going to turn around and ask someone else, and maybe it's not right.
Well, you've gotten to the point of motivation and and ease, and they have to be motivated to where the new correct process is either simpler or provides more rewards, or right from that standpoint than the old system did. Otherwise, people aren't incented. They're not going to spend extra time just because
Correct.
It's the right thing to do, which, God, if the right thing to do just had the right payback, sometimes it just doesn't in all cases.
And I talked about that with Michael Hammer's 7 Eyes of change management, and one of them, like you just meant, is incentive.
Yeah.
Put it on employees' formal evaluation. You want to keep
Right.
these things. You want to get them involved. You want to get their feedback into improvement, continuous improvement. Don't push changes and use a separate team to do all the analysis. Use the people that do the work on the daily basis and incentivize them to give input into improvement. They're the best people to it.
Well, and I even find sometimes too, when I'm in those situations and I know I need to follow as a manager, I got to follow these. I've got to either get the motivations in the right place or build it so deep in my processes that I have to go through it.
Correct.
Make it a part of, embedded in something that won't let me go around it. I kind of need to. And it's funny. So you start playing these games a little bit. You know?
And of course, that's when automation comes into play.
Right.
Which our tool does go all the way to workflow. But turn that, that picture into a live running process that you could actually monitor as it goes through that process flow and how long it takes on every task and embed your business rules. But the reason why I talk less about workflow when I talk about BPM is because on the same side, workflow got a bit of a bad taste in some companies' mouths, the larger ones, because they bought into the fact of you draw a picture and you press a button and your company runs. And it's the biggest mistake. Flow charting a process is not automation. Workflow, whether you do it in a BPMS software or an ERP, it's a program, it's a project in itself. You have to do requirements gathering, you have to develop, you have to build forms, you have to QA it, you have to roll out, retrain. So to just say, hey, in a demo, I drew a process and I automated it and boom,
Magic.
Yeah, correct. There is no magic.
Well, I think back 10 years ago, and Oracle and Microsoft are in, these are in this space.
Yeah.
And it was so messy. Sometimes it was almost messier to create the process than it was to actually get it working right, and it just didn't work very well.
Correct.
I am assuming in the last decade we've made some progress. And is that process a little more agile today than maybe it's been in the past?
For the automation side, it's a lot more agile. That's why case management has developed so much recently. And it's really the driver behind it is that the flexibility standpoint, people bought into agility with BPMS and that, it's really flexible. But to be honest, it's a bit robust and it was very much catering to straight through processing. But a lot of processes are not straight through processing. So they were, it was like trying to fit a square through a peg hole, as they say. So a lot of the tools have adapted much more on a case by case where it gives the flexibility to the user to at runtime decide what to do and assign tasks on the fly and cater to this more human-centric workflows.
Yeah, and I think that makes more sense. And we get that compliance or we get that action correct where it needs to be in that spot and be able to adjust those over time, or like you said, in a more agile approach, or working it in a way that makes it easier for the end user. So it's not just an overwhelming all at once. Now change all your processes.
Some of the tools have even gotten to the point where they're doing predictive. So since I'm letting you decide on what to do, but I'm giving you information, 80% of the time we go this way, or because you filled in these 3 fields, it should go to this guy.
Yeah.
So it's like giving you the flexibility, but also the intelligence at the same time to make you make better decisions.
No.
So things have evolved.
Did you get any interesting feedback? Any interesting questions in your session?
Most people came after. I think they're a bit shy to raise their hand, but everyone, had a sort of that around me asking a lot of questions.
I just got a minute. Yeah.
Actually, one of the main questions that came up that I think is a good question was, how do we sell this to our CIO? It was like we were talking about. He said he's tired of this. They've done it in the past. Right. It was a great question about building a business case. And he goes, the things that you talked about around, let's stop talking about bottleneck analysis and cycle time and these very deep type of process analysis, and look more at the big picture of knowledge management, catering to millennials. Mm-hmm. They need information on their phone. that they can find it in an instant.
Right.
They will not print. They will not look in a book. They want to work somewhere that's innovative and digital. So a lot of my examples were outside the norm, and he said, help me build this business case.
Yeah.
And we put together, a list of items, and I think that was one of the best questions, because he said, this is a whole different reflection that we never thought of, and I'm going to present it now the same way to my CIO. Like, scrap what you used to think about process.
Right.
Let's take a new reflection and a new approach.
Well, certainly a different culture, a different work culture. You mentioned millennials, and we know from our research at Gallup, they're moving in a little bit of a different direction when it comes to the workplace.
Absolutely.
And although I'll contend that the millennials really want the same thing we all want in a lot of ways. I'm a little older than a millennial, but there's a lot of things I want efficient work processes, right? I don't want to go out of compliance if I don't have to. Most of the times I do it because it's easier.
Yeah.
Right. Or I have a roadblock and I need to satisfy a customer requirement, and okay, boom, customer, you move, right? So
you could actually say that millennials want less process.
Sure.
The knowledge workers, and but so actually I talked about that, about catering to that is more taking that they want collaboration. So don't just think of process as some robust thing that you must color in the lines. Think of it as a guide to get you to where you need to go. And by putting collaboration and social around it, that's one of the things of our tool that we focused on with all the latest version.
Yeah,
is all around the collaboration aspect, not just the process. The process is there, but the improvement and formalizing it and bringing everyone, doesn't matter if they're across the world, to collaborate around the same process on an international scale and on their mobiles. And that's where I see there's innovation. Process itself is the same. Good
way to end it, Scott. While we were here, happens every once in a while. Everybody has taken in the time that I've been interviewing you. A lot of the conferences going on. Thanks for taking a few minutes to be a part of this, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, before I go, let me ask: if people wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do
that? Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm open to connect with everyone. Scott Armstrong, or scott.armstrong@interfacing.com. Send me an email.
That's what we're
happy to
looking
connect.
for. You bet.